My favorite game saved my niece's life. My sister and I grew up in a house where hiding was survival. Our father was a monster, and our mother was too scared to stop him. When things got bad, we would slip out the back door and run into the woods behind our house. There was a ravine about half a mile in where a fallen oak tree created a hollow space against the creek bed. We called it the cave. It was invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. We would huddle there for hours listening to the water and waiting for the screaming to stop. We used it maybe a dozen times between the ages of 8 and 15. Then our father died and our mother moved away, and we grew up, and the cave became just another childhood memory that we never talked about. My sister Wendy got married at 24 to a man named Patrick, who everyone said was perfect for her. He was charming and successful, and he doted on her constantly. He brought her flowers every Friday and called her his angel in front of our whole family. My parents adored him. My aunts adored him. Everyone kept telling Wendy how lucky she was to find someone like Patrick. They bought a house 3 streets over from where we grew up because Wendy always loved those woods. When they had a baby girl named Lily, our whole family celebrated. I lived 3 hours away and only saw them at holidays. But Wendy seemed happy. She stopped calling as much, but Patrick said that was normal for new mothers. She missed my birthday, but Patrick said she was exhausted from the baby. She stopped responding to texts, but Patrick said she was taking a break from her phone. She didn't come to Christmas, but Patrick said the baby was sick. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. Then I got a call at 2 in the morning from a number I didn't recognize. It was a detective asking if I was related to Wendy. There had been an incident at her home. Patrick was in custody. Wendy and the baby were missing. What do you mean missing? Neighbors heard screaming and called 911. When officers arrived, they found significant blood and signs of a struggle. Patrick was still at the scene. He claims he doesn't know where his wife and daughter are. How much blood? Ma'am, we need to find your sister as quickly as possible. I was already getting dressed. I know where she is. Excuse me? There's a ravine in the woods behind our old house. If she's running and she's scared, that's where she went. How do you know that? Because that's where we always hid when we were kids. That's the only place she's ever felt safe. I drove 3 hours in the dark going 90 the whole way. 2 police cars met me at the edge of the old property. The house had been torn down years ago, but the woods were still there. I led them through the trees with flashlights cutting through the darkness. We reached the ravine as the sun was starting to come up. The fallen oak was still there, more rotted now, but still creating that hollow space against the creek bed. I saw her foot first. She was curled up in the cave with Lily pressed against her chest, both of them completely still. Wendy. I scrambled down the ravine and the officers followed. Wendy's face was white and her lips were blue and there was so much blood soaked into her clothes. But Lily was warm. Lily was breathing. Lily opened her eyes and looked right at me. I pulled the baby out of my sister's arms and held her against my chest. One officer checked Wendy's pulse and shook his head. She's gone. Looks like she bled out. How long? Hard to say. Maybe an hour. Maybe 2. My sister had run half a mile through the woods in the dark with 3 stab wounds in her stomach carrying her 8-month-old baby. She had made it to the only place she knew I would find her. She had wrapped herself around Lily and kept her warm with her own body heat until she couldn't anymore. The paramedics arrived and took Lily to the hospital. She had mild hypothermia, but she was going to be okay. Patrick had stabbed Wendy 3 times and left her for dead. She had pretended to be unconscious until he went to the garage and then she grabbed Lily and ran. She didn't call 911 because Patrick was a cop and she didn't trust them to believe her over him. She didn't call me because her phone was in the house. She just ran to the only place she had ever felt safe. The detective asked me later how I knew to look there. We used to hide in that ravine when we were kids. When I heard she was missing and scared, I just knew that's where she went. You drove 3 hours on a hunch? It wasn't a hunch. It was my sister. Patrick is serving 25 to life. Lily calls me Mama now, and when she's old enough, I'm going to teach her hide and seek.